Hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Barely Inbounds. Hey, Dave, how are you doing on this Tuesday?
I'm terrific, Sal. Unfortunately, I was not able to get my handicap index down low enough to qualify for the U.S. Open, but a bunch of guys did.
Well, to be exact, 9,086 got their handicaps down, and they had final qualifying on Monday, and it was spread out all over. You know, they have it in Japan, they have it in London, they have it all over the States. What do you think of this U.S. Open qualifying?
Well, the one thing that I think is so cool about it is the number of amateurs that are able to try to get a chance to fulfill their lifelong dream and then play in the U.S. Open. You know, we had, I believe, 13 amateurs qualify on Monday for the Open, including some pretty good college players: Kyle Stanley, Ricky Fowler, Cameron Tringali, and this kid who was the hero of the NCAA championships, Bronson Burgoon.
You know, there were 13 college kids that made it through and will play at Bethpage next week.
Yeah, and Drew Weaver is one of them too. The kid who won the British Amateur a couple of years ago after being at Virginia Tech.
Well, what do you think of the whole thing that, you know, you go out there and you have to play 36 holes of golf and you know, it comes the Monday after a tournament and everything. It just shows that there's no entitlements, you know, like on the PGA Tour for these guys, because you had guys like Davis Love, John Daly, Jose Maria Olazabal, and Lee Jansen playing with, you know, these kids.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the essence of an Open championship. But, you know, you talk about entitlement and that whole thing. That leads to some bad attitudes. One of the things that's distressing to me was the number of withdrawals. I mean, by my count, there were something like 58 withdrawals at all the various qualifying stops. And, you know, to me, that's an insult to those 9,000 guys who signed up for it. I mean, I'm sure there were a few legitimate excuses, but most of these guys had a bad first round and then just said screw it and didn't show up. And to me, that's, you know, again, an insult. So show a little respect for the national championship, okay?
Well, you know what? You're 100% right, but that's the thing when you have 36 and there's whining about, oh, it's too long and things like that. I think, and I think you think, it's a great way of doing it. Talking about the U.S. Open, yesterday Tiger played 18 holes at Bethpage, and he had his entourage, Steve Williams, Hank Haney, and things like that. Do you think it's funny that now it's become a big joke, this thing with Tiger Woods, where you now have people sneaking in cameras, and we're now seeing YouTube video, the crappiest YouTube video you'll ever see up there.
Like any other celebrity, I mean, what the heck? I mean, he said that he was going to be there, so you know that there were people staking it out. I don't know. What's the big deal? As long as nobody pulls a Federer and goes out and tries to put a hat on his head or something, you know?
Well,
or worse.
Phil Mickelson was there Tuesday, and he played a round of golf. It's kind of nice to see Phil back here. We don't know for how long, but, you know.
Well, yeah, it's certainly a big boost to Memphis for him teeing it up this week, you know, along with John Daly. That'll be interesting to see who fares better among those two. I think I'll go with Phil, though.
Well, if we're going to talk about it, let's hear your picks.
My picks for the week. Well, you know what? I'm going with the defending champion, Justin Leonard. You know, he's won there twice. Also won in 2005. He's played well in the Texas swing. I think he finished 5th, 16th, and 13th in those 3 events. Guy's had a great year, so you know I'll give him his 3rd championship there. You need a long shot too, I'm sure, and I'm going to go with a big one, David Duval.
David Duval.
He's made 2 cuts in a row, and he qualified for the Open. Something's got to be going right.
No, something has to be going right. Well, for me, you want a sure bet this week? No, it's not Phil Mickelson, Sergio Garcia, or John Daly. Look for David Toms this week, despite having finished tied for 37th last year. He's been playing great. He has wins in 2003, 2004, 3rd in 2007. He's my pick. I also like my long shot, Matt Kuchar, who was 5th in the Memorial. He got into the U.S. Open in Georgia qualifying, and he was tied for 6th in the FBR this year. He was tied for 5th at Southwind in 2002.
All right, we got a big event going on in the LPGA too, LPGA Championship. It's a major.
Well, you know what? It is a major, but you kind of wonder, it doesn't seem like a major. It seems like the LPGA Tour is just completely off track and everything. We're talking more about Carolyn Bivets. There's going to be more talk this year about the McDonald's LPGA Championship. What happened was last year, Carolyn Bivets and the people that own the McDonald's LPGA Championship got together, and the LPGA Tour is going to get the tournament. They're going to own it and things along those lines, which is really good in a good marketplace. But now it's a really bad marketplace. So now they have to go out and get another sponsor because McDonald's has already said they're not going to do it. They're going to have to go through this whole thing. They're even talking about a new golf course. It's a real mess when they're talking about more of the minutia of problems that Carolyn Bivets gets them into instead of the real thing that they should be talking about, and it's these great girls playing golf.
They need a good tournament. They need, they need extra holes or something like that with some of their big names. You're right. Too much of the focus has been off the golf course, and they need a Michelle Wie or somebody like that to come out and win. And that being said, who do you like?
Well, of course, I've got to pick Lorraine Ochoa. Since moving to Bowie Rock 4 years ago, she's finished tied for 5th, tied for 9th, tied for 6th, and tied for 3rd. So you have to like her. Another good person that has a good record there is Mayan Kim, who's finished 7th, 3rd, tied for 5th, and 10th. You also shouldn't disregard Sari Pak, who played well last week at State Farm, and she won it there. My long shot pick is Ji Young Lee, who was tied for 3rd at State Farm and finished 14th, 10th, and 18th the last couple of years. So, how about you?
All right, Mr. Statman, I'm going to stump you with something here. Now, I'm going with another defending champion, Yanni Tseng. And so you tell me, Mr. Statman, when's the last time that defending champions won on the same week on the LPGA and the PGA Tour? Now, you can get back with me on that one.
How about next week? Hopefully people will forget it. Hey.
So, okay, I like her, and my long shot, Vicky Hurst. This is the teenager who tore up the Durham Ed Futures Tour last year. She finished 5th at Corning a couple of weeks ago, which was won, incidentally, by Yanni Tseng, who is very hot, and her worst start in 11 starts this year is 23rd. So,
very good picks. Hey, Dave, we kind of end this on a kind of a sad note. Our hearts and prayers go out to Ken Green, who's in a hospital in Mississippi after a terrific crash. He played in Austin. He was driving back. He had his brother. He had his girlfriend with him and his German Shepherd. The brother and the girlfriend lost their lives in the car wreck. The German Shepherd, died also. And Ken Green's in the hospital fighting. They possibly have to take his eye out and do amputation. So our prayers are out to Ken Green.
Yeah, he was a little bit of an odd duck out there, and he wasn't everybody's cup of tea. But I don't care. You don't wish anything like that on anyone. And I agree with you. We're certainly pulling for him. And one thing I guess you do have to say: the early reports that he did not have a seatbelt on and went through the windshield. So let that be a cautionary tale for everybody.
Well, I'm out of here. I will put on my seatbelt, and we'll talk to you next week when we start talking about the U.S. Open.
Okay, take it easy, Sal.